Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I'm down at the Bass Hole again with Robert. It's the first time I ever called you Robert. Is that okay?
That's fine by me.
It's middle of February. Fishing has been tough, but spring is right around the corner. We're gonna start to have some good fishing here, Rob. And I wanted to stop in and let Rob talk about a selection of baits that if you don't already have, you should have. Can you kind of just walk through a bunch of the baits that people should be thinking about having, you know, at their disposal when that water hits about 60 degrees? And I know you don't have any top waters up here, but let's do a separate video on top waters. Let's just talk about subsurface baits.
All right, so, you know, number one is, hey, you get on the water, I'm going to check water clarity. And that's going to pretty much predict how my whole day is going to run, right? So water clarity is what I'm looking for when I launch, and it's going to predict on what I'm throwing. If I'm in that muddy water, which a lot of us are going to deal with right there, I'm going to be throwing those bright orange baits. This is a badass spinnerbait right here, and I pair it up with either a Pro Point trailer right there, the habanero. That's a great looking bait right there. Or the Hog Farmer Spunk Shad, just a little bit more flare, a little bit more brighter color to pair up with that guy. And I'm going to burn this guy up on the rocks. I'm going to burn it in the toolies. I'm just going to cover water with that guy.
I've got a question for you, Rob. I know you're going to talk about this chatterbait. When do you throw a spinnerbait compared to a chatterbait?
So now my spinnerbait, I'm more of a toolie spinnerbait guy. I'm in the track, I'm in Mildred, and I've got all these sparse toolies right there. This is my best friend right here. But this guy really shines in the toolies. And that's,
I remember Bobby Barrick used to say, if you're throwing those, you want to bounce them off a toolie.
Everything you want to hit it, this guy will go right through it. 99.9% of the time, it'll go right through those toolies. You can knock it, you can slow roll it. I use a real slow reel. I think I'm like a 541 or 621 reel on this guy right here. I prefer the 3/4 just because it's easier to cast on those windy days. You can control it better, and you can launch it a 1/4 mile. I choose the big willow blades versus the Colorado or anything like that. A lot of guys go back and forth on it. I specifically throw a willow throughout the whole year, and straight out the package. There's nothing to it. I put my trailer on there and I rock and roll. Sometimes I don't even fish with a trailer on there, straight out the package. I don't put a trailer hook on it. I never have. And like I said, oh, you miss all this stuff. The big ones eat it, they get hooked. I've never really lost it. I don't like the trailer hook. It puts too much bulkiness on there. I throw it with the Hog Farmer, or I throw it with the Pro Point machete minnow on the back of it right there. And there's so many different baits you can put on the back of it, but those are two of my favorites that I like.
You keep those around toolies, and I imagine you're going to tell us you throw these in the vegetation.
The chatterbait. Let's talk about the chatterbait. I will not throw this guy in the toolies. You're going to catch every damn toolie.
Or rock.
Yep, and no.
Well, I mean, don't let it settle down in the rock.
Yeah, don't let it.
Rocks will eat these things.
Don't cast and sink it into the rocks right there. But what I'm going to do with this guy now, be it a high or a low tide, depending on where I'm fishing at, I want this guy to bump off of everything. With jig fishing and chatterbait fishing, you can't go out and just get one of these guys and be like, oh, I'm going to go chatterbait fishing. You're going to have fun for about 15 minutes. You're going to lose this bad boy on the river. Unfortunately, the river, it takes everything that we love. And it gives stuff that we love too at the same time, so you can't be mad at it. But I will go through 5, 6, 7 chatterbaits on an outing when I'm dedicated to throwing this guy, and I will lose him in the rocks. I will lose him in the toolies. And
5, 7?
Yeah, I know. I buy them by the bulk, and that's the best way to do it. That way you're getting more bang for your buck. I'm rocks. I'm grass. I really like that viney stuff when it dies off. I like to hit off of that. You will catch the hell out of that viney stuff. I carry a push pull with a hook on it to get it out of there.
Do you run straight braid?
I do not. I run 17 fluorocarbon on my chatterbaits and my spinnerbait. Okay. 17 fluorocarbon, Seaguar, Braze X. It is, you could pull a boat with that stuff. It is stronger than hell.
Once you've exhausted your spinnerbaits, you know, if you've got a spinnerbait on and a chatterbait on, do you always have a crankbait?
I'll have the chatterbait, the spinnerbait, the crankbait on my boat for the next 6 months of this year.
Can you talk about some of your favorite lipless and crankbaits?
Yeah. So we'll start off here. This is a 6-inch 50 crush. I like this guy right here. It's a shallow runner. You're 1 to 3 feet on this guy right here. It likes to bump off the rocks, likes to bump off the grass.
I have another question too.
Yes, sir.
Do you Okay, you just talked about throwing the spinnerbaits and chatterbaits on 17-pound fluoro. Do you use the same 17?
No,
okay.
We're 15 on this guy now.
And on all of
that. Okay. My lipless and my square bills are all 15.
Okay, because I wanted to go over that, so as you go through these, everybody will know kind of, you know, you got a couple of rods, one for chatterbaits, one for spinnerbaits, and then you have a different rod and a different pound test line when you go over to your crankbaits.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll have 3 or 4 rods set up with just square bills on it.
Okay.
And I'll have a 1.5, a 2.5, and a bigger one too.
So you're really going with size variances more than color, or color and
the
size?
color will kind of range from here to there, right? For between those bright oranges, you know, they've come in so many different colors there. You know, anything orange right now is my best friend in the next couple weeks there. Especially in that muddy water, it just stands out. Again, these fish are coming out of the winter hibernation. So are the craws, and the craws are coming out, and they're going to be a muddy brownish color, almost to an orangish color, and that's really what their forage is going to be for the next 2 or 3 months before these bluegills start coming up here, and the bait fish start coming through again in the shallows when it's a little bit warmer.
But I want to ask you some questions that I think other people might be asking. So when you have a bait and you're talking about a 2, 3, 4, whatever size you're talking about, so you have 4 of these and they're all different sizes. When do you think about, instead of switching size, switching color?
So for me, size, when they're not eating it, I'm going to throw the little dude all day, and I'll catch 3 or 4 or 5, 6 fish a day, but they'll eat the little guy. When they are eating the hell out of this dude right here, and I'm talking like every cast you're catching them, I'll experiment and I'll go up to the 2.5. They're eating the hell out of that one too, and the bigger ones are eating
So you go up incrementally?
Yes. I said if I'm throwing this guy out every cast, and he's getting bit and thumped, and I'm catching him, I'm going to say, okay, let's see what a big one does. And I'll throw that 2.5. I also throw the big KVD one, the 4.0 in red, the Delta Craw. When they're eating that right there, the bigger ones will tend to lock in on that one, and I'll tend to get better size fish, 3 and up, versus that 12-inch to 3-pounder on these little guys right here.
So if a guy's coming in and he maybe has one rod that he's going to use, can you throw the 2.5 and the bigger ones on the same rod? And
yes.
Same rod. If a guy's going to get 2 sizes, maybe it's a weekend guy, he doesn't want to buy 4 sizes and 4 colors. What color and what 2 sizes would you suggest the guy's coming in? I say, I need a couple of these to try, and then we'll go from there.
Yep, I'd go the 1.0 and the 1.5 to start out with. The ATV is a really good bait. It's ready to go right out the package. Good hooks, bounces, deflects off everything. It's that good craw color. So I would start out with a 1.0 and a 1.5. Personally, I throw this on a 7.6 rod, the 763, the iRod Crank Launch Junior. And it doesn't matter if it's the 1.0 to the 4.0, that rod throws them and takes them all. And the line's the same on it.
Okay.
Everything's the same. But again, I would start out with the 1.0 and a 1.5 and just burn those and see what's happening.
Okay. We've run through a lot of moving baits. I see you've got some jigs there. You've got some worms. Once you've run through your faster moving baits, when you're bottom bouncing, what are the baits they should have, the slower moving bottom bouncing baits?
Well, for starters here, when I'm burning this guy and I'm catching a lot of fish in an area, you might go 20, 30 yards, 100 yards and not get bit, and then all of a sudden you catch fish. And then it disappears again and you're not catching them. Well, that group of fish was up feeding in that area. When I come across that right there, I'll circle back and I'll slow it down and I'll throw that jig. And again, I go with that same colors, that bright red. This is a Bobby D's half-ounce jig, Arky head jig. This is the jig that I throw right here.
17-pound test?
No, now we're 50-pound braid on this guy.
50-pound
braid. Straight braid on this guy, 50-pound braid. And I'll put either a Yamamoto on the back of that, or a beaver, or a D-bomb.
That's this cow. Is that the cowboy?
That is a flapping hog in the orange and green pumpkin right there.
That's the trailer you're using.
That's the trailer that I like right there.
And there's a ton of good ones.
Pick one you like. You don't need them all. Just get one you like and you're happy with and you feel comfortable with. Again, black and red jig, green pumpkin jig, brown, black, anything like that with a green pumpkin or orange or red trailer on there is really going to imitate those craws.
Hey Rob, I got a question on these jigs, and we're talking about a compact jig, and we're talking about a cowboy or a trailer, and I noticed when I put these on, it looks like it's, you know, it's a big jig, and I want to always cut the top down to make this more compact. Do you cut these down, or do you just fish the whole jig? And think
typically, the fish will tell you, right? You're casting this thing out there, thump, 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 swing, nothing. You come back, and your bait is missing everything on the ass end of it right there. That's when your telltale sign is, okay, I need to do a little bit more compact, because these fish are just grabbing it right here, and they're kind of playing with it, seeing what it is, and you're swinging and you're ripping everything off right there. So
you can tell how the size difference between those two. The smaller jig or the smaller trailer is going to make a much more compact jig.
Yep.
You also talked about bumping that back to the boat. With the jig, do you run it right through slowly on the bottom? Do you work it back to the boat? How do you fish that jig when you're in vegetation?
So a lot of people ask that question because a lot of people don't know how to fish a jig. Me personally, I like a good hop. I keep it moving. I'm never letting it
just drop it.
Yep, I keep my rod from 60 degrees to 90 degrees, and I'm constantly hopping it and watching my line. Yep.
How high do you like to pop it above the vegetation? Then do you follow it down with your rod, or you just kind of pop it and drop it? Let it sit for how long? Pop it, drop it? What are you doing?
Pop it and drop it. I like to pop it, lock it.
Okay. Pop it and lock it? Okay.
So no, I like to hop it really fast. Generally, even wintertime or summertime, I'm constantly moving it, and I'm about a 18 inches to 30 inch hop on that guy, and it's just constantly moving it. I'm almost swimming it, to be honest with you. I fish it in the rocks more than anything, and the reason I don't like to let it sit there is because that bad boy goes in the rocks and she disappears.
And how many of these do you go through a day, Rob?
Well, you could ask Bobby D. I generally, when I'm on a hot jig bite, I'm 20-30 jigs a week.
Okay, not a day though.
Not a day.
Okay, because I'm thinking
some days on a tournament I might do that, especially with the tide.
7 of these, 5 of those.
Yeah, I know. It helps.
A bait shop.
This is when sponsors are really good for you. That's the best part of it right there. And I know Bobby's pissed at me because I always call him and say, I need some more jigs. He goes, I just made you 30 of them.
Yeah.
But I will go through them. I like a jig more than anything on a high tide, on that trough between the grass and the rocks, and I'm firing it up in there and I'm hopping it down to the grass and then bringing it back. I won't pull it through the grass. As soon as it hits that wall of grass right there, I typically stop. I found that the fish sit in that wall and stare at the rocks like it's a TV, and they watch something that comes out of there, a crawdad, a goby, a bluegill, whatever it is, and they're ready to strike when it's there. And it's got to land right on the rocks, right on the edge of the water, and then work its way back. If you fall too short, you're not going to get bit.
They're hitting it on the edge of the trough, but they want that thing coming from 4 or 5 feet away, because they can hear these baits when they pop off the rocks.
Yep.
So that's a real important thing that a lot of people may not pick up on. Make yourself a good caster and be able to get that thing within inches. What Rob is talking about, going through all these baits, I should do a full video on just becoming much more aggressive, putting them in places that probably they're thinking no one else has put a bait. But that's what you're
gambling,
doing.
man. Yeah. I'm flipping it in the way back of docks. I'm flipping it in little pockets and
you're
little holes.
You're going to lose stuff.
You're going to lose stuff, and that's, hey, especially being a tournament angler, I'm here to win. I'm here to gamble, so I'm going all out to make these extra casts and make it happen.
None of these baits are guaranteed, so if you throw one out and it gets popped in the rocks and they lose it, don't come back to Rob and thinking he's going to give you another one because you said you lost it in the rocks.
Not me.
There's no hurt feelings out here.
Well, the good thing is, if you don't like losing baits, you can always just throw this
let's talk about that
all day. Now, this is your 7-inch Senko right here. This is color 925. I throw 3 colors, the 208, the 925, and the 021. Those are my 3 favorite colors. That's a black and blue, green pumpkin red laminate, and then a green pumpkin red. Any one of them works. When they're eating it, they're eating it.
3 or 4 colors is all you need.
Yeah, you don't need a whole boat full of them and whatever. It could be.
No, you need a boat full of them, but they don't have to be a boat full of colors. You need a boat full of the 3 or 4 colors.
Yes, yes. So again, I go with the 7 right now, and this is typically the only time of the year where I'll throw that 7-inch, and I'll throw it all the way to June, and then I'll start going back to my 6-inch. The bigger fish tend to eat it. It's easy to work, or easy to fish. I only fish it wacky rigged, and I throw a 3-aught round circle hook on this guy, and I don't use a weed guard or nothing like that, and I just wacky rig it with a band, and that's it. And that's I've always fished it. I don't Texas rig it. I don't put a weight in there. I don't do nothing. Straight out the package, O-ring on there, and make them.
They're heavy.
You could launch this thing a mile.
Yeah.
You know, they're heavy. This is my go-to bait when I don't want to lose a bunch of stuff, or I'm getting frustrated, or when I come across fish. Finding fish with this crankbait or that chatterbait, and I come across a school of fish, and I go, man, I wonder if there's a big one sitting there that just doesn't want that. I will beat that spot up for 30, 40 minutes with this bigger bait and see if I can get one. Or typically when I have a co-angler, I go, hey, get that 7-inch out and start throwing it. But that's that guy right there. You can fling him anywhere. And if you lose him, you're losing one of these in a hook, so you're not as bad as losing a chatterbait and a jig. 30-pound braid on this guy. I typically use a spinning setup on there. I use a 723 from iRod, 30-pound braid, no leader, no nothing, straight to the hook, and rock and roll.
I'll keep a 7-inch and either a 5 or a 6-inch, usually a 7 and a 5, and I'll throw the 7-inch or the 5-inch wacky. The bigger one I'll put on a inline worm hook because I want to make really long casts and just keep it pinned down in the brush and just slowly reel it through. And when I have this on a wacky hook, I can't make as far a cast because it's going to get fouled up with the stuff. So, but you can't go wrong with this thing.
No, and again, back to doing the Texas rig on there with just a worm hook.
And no weight.
A big 6/0, it makes it weedless, right? So you can fire it in the toolies and do a lot more than what I like to do with the wacky rigged. So a lot of my buddies do it like that. Again, I don't, but that's another way, another approach to do it. No weight on it, and just Texas rig it. No. So the only thing different about that is how now the approach going into that hole, it's going to give you that vertical fall versus that horizontal fall, which is what I like, and it tends to what I find fall slower and kind of stay in that strike zone a little bit more.
Rig it wacky. You're going to get 90% of your bites on the fall and within maybe a foot of the fall. When you rig it with a standard inline worm hook, you're going to get 90% of your bites after it's down on the bottom and you're retrieving it back to the boat, popping it through stuff. The biggest fish in the Delta was caught on a 6-inch Cinco. And you know, you're working that thing back, and you just know when that big fish grabs it, there's a difference. You can just, you just know it. And you know, you count to 1 and 1.5 if you can make it. You take a couple of turns and you just whack them things. And these things are so addictive when you start catching fish on those Cincos.
Oh yeah. Like I said to my buddy, you know, the big ones, they don't even bite. They just, you just watch the line. Just swimming to the left. And you do about a half hook set, and you're like, oh dear God. You know.
Those big ones, they just open their mouth, flare their gills. That worm comes in, and usually you got them hooked right, you know, somewhere nice and tied up in the mouth. And woo.
Yep, good times.
I can't wait. So
it's right there. It's almost there.
You got a punch rig. Let's talk about that.
So you know, punch rig. I'll always have this on the boat. It really hasn't been paying off this year yet. I don't think I've even caught a punch fish, so I've kind of put it on the back burner there. But going along with all these other baits here, burning that chatterbait, or burning that crankbait, burning that chatterbait, that spinnerbait in those open waters. Now I'm coming up to a rock bank that's got toolies with a little bit of vegetation on there, hyacinth, whatever it is, floating vegetation. And it looks like a good spot that I'm going to flip something in there. This is my go-to right here. 1.5 ounce tungsten weight, 4/0 Gamakatsu super heavy hook right there. My punch skirt, everything rigged up on there. This is a big mouth baits right here. These will be coming to the shop here. Nobody's really carrying these yet. These are custom poured by my good buddy Cameron. Just a good looking bait. It's got the same knockers on there that the flapping hog does, and he made this bait because he got tired of losing these appendages on the flapping hog. I know everybody has. You cast it in there, one bite comes back, everything's missing. There goes $1. So he's made a really good bait. The appendages are extremely strong on this guy. Same concept, got those big knockers on there. Good color, just an orange color right there, and I paired it up with the orange and green pumpkin skirt. Looks just like a crawdad falling through, and again, bigger, stronger profile. Well, we lost the top of it, but
that's all right.
There's the basics of it.
So you know that about covers it. I mean, we didn't talk top water. When that water temperature gets up to about 60 to 65, when we really start getting some bites, I'll come back. We'll talk about a variety of top waters because that's what everybody likes to do. There's a lot more going on with top waters than most people want to think about. You know, the size of the bait, the cadence that a certain bait is moved at. There's a whole lot going on with top waters. We'll just talk about top waters, but for now, I think if you guys have this array of baits that Rob talked about, and you learn how to use them and get acquainted with them, put some time on the water, you're going to catch fish.
Yep.
So, Rob, thanks a lot. And I know if you guys come in, especially now is when you want to start thinking about what's going to go on in a month. Rob's not real busy in the shop. You can come in and talk to him, and he'll get you set up. You can ask questions, and that's the one thing that Rob has that, you know, Bass Pro doesn't have. You know, the shops that are, you know, the big national shops, you know, they don't have the local knowledge. So come on in, talk to Rob, get set up. And you know, I know I'm in here talking to you, and we're friends, but support the local guys. Rob's got a great shop in here, and he's trying to do everything he can to get you guys, you know, out on the water. He's got the tournament schedule coming up. We got the swap meet coming up, and just a good place to come in and get your stuff. So Rob, thanks for all that information.
Yep. And again, if you can't make it to the shop, we have a website as well, thebassholetackleshop.com. Or you can call me up and do phone orders if you're looking for anything. I usually can get anything and everything. You know, our store's small but big. But if you're looking for something, give me a call. I might be able to get it for you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rob. See you guys on the water. Good luck.